Ready for it.
Thrilled for it.
Presenting Franks with Turbo Booster Jet Engine.
Nexa.
26th of May 2024, Kolkata Knight Riders and Sunrisers Hyderabad closed out their IPL campaigns against each other. 25th of May 2025, KKR and SRH again close out IPL campaigns against each other, but so much has changed almost a year to the day. They are now fighting, knowing that the season was over well before their last game, the two finalists from IPL 2024. That is the last game on Sunday doubleheader, the last Sunday doubleheader of this season, and we will build up to that, even as we keep an eye on what is quite a pivotal result. Gujarat Titans losing to Chennai Super Kings in Ahmedabad. Welcome to Nexa Presents ESPN Cricket Info Timeout in the continuing company of Tom Moody, Anil Kumble, Dustin Silgardo. And while we wait on the final events of the game in Ahmedabad, this game, KKR Sunrisers, both these sides last season, they were the story of last season, redefining what we thought was possible with the bat. Quite a different story.
Certainly is, and we're not going to have a situation where we've got a top four side, slipping up, trying to find that extra chance in position 1 or 2. Yeah, look, but both have had very indifferent seasons, and for various reasons. But Sunrisers are on a bit of a roll at the moment, so going into this contest, I would biased aside, I'd sort of lean towards Sunrisers as having the upper hand. So they just seem to have more pieces of their puzzle in the right places. Yeah,
and they are indeed favourites going by the trend you just pointed out, because they start this game below KKR.
Yeah, very true.
Anil, thoughts on KKR, Sunrisers? Both these teams had that common theme of their openers redefining everything last season. And
yeah, that's where I think they struggled. Since the openers couldn't get off the way they did last season. The pressure on the middle order was evident, and that certainly didn't allow both these teams to do what they are capable of. I mean, on paper, both these sides look really good. Not much different from last year in terms of roles, but unfortunately for them, the openers didn't fire the way they did.
What is the one-sentence review for both these sides? You can take longer. I don't mean to put you on the spot.
Yeah, I mean, I think with KKR, they've just struggled to score through the middle overs. And I think that they missed Shreyas and Salt much more than they thought that they would. And they didn't actually find adequate replacements. They have too many one-dimensional batters. I think that's been KKR's issue. With Hyderabad, honestly, that one I can't really figure out. I think it's just been form. I think that they actually had a good squad, and somehow their top players just didn't hit form till the end of the season.
Yeah, I think with Sunrisers also, I just feel that their lack of ability to adjust to conditions. Not every pitch you play on is going to be a belter and you're going to score 200 plus. There's going to be times where you're going to have to pivot and play a slightly different game, and 175 becomes a really competitive score. I think they just had in their mind that this is the way we're playing without sort of adjusting when they needed to.
All right, I will now request all of you to hold the thoughts around KKR and Sunrisers, because we can pivot to the first game of the day. Chennai Super Kings have closed out their campaign with an 83-run win over Gujarat Titans, which means GT lose back-to-back games for the first time this season, right before they enter the playoffs. Tom?
Yeah, well, it's followed the trend that we've been talking about since we've had this forced break. Every side that had momentum prior to that week's break have completely lost it. And this is probably one result we thought wouldn't follow that trend, because CSK appeared from the outside to have lost their form completely, where a few other sides there was a glimmer of hope that they could recapture some sort of form. But CSK, that's a great result for them, because they've had a very difficult year, a number of players out of form, but just right at the end, their very last game, they found their recipe again and played the cricket that they're so used to doing and have done historically.
Yeah, those last 26 or 27 of the 147 GT eventually managed means that CSK do finish bottom for the first time in IPL history. But lots to talk about how the season turned for them. But Gujarat Titans now, Anil, they say goodbye to Joss Butler for this season. The bowling going off the boil in the last few games is a worrying signs for a team that looked like favourites for the playoffs.
Yeah, it's a worrying sign. I mean, we've been saying that, the top order has sort of literally taken them through to the playoffs. And now with one of them, the main player, one of the major players, Josh Butler, not being there at number 3, it puts a lot more pressure with the kind of performances that they have had back-to-back of losing on Shubman Gill and Sai Sudarshan, because that's going to be the challenge for them in the playoffs.
Yeah.
They need to come good. They don't have a choice.
Yeah, they'll be hoping that LSG can do them a favor. They can still finish in the top 2, of course, but it's not in their hands anymore.
Correct.
If, depending on, tomorrow's result, the team will then get into qualifier 1. Correct. And then finally, Bengaluru, if they can beat Lucknow, go into qualifier 1 as well. And you wouldn't want to be playing an eliminator coming off 2 back-to-back losses, would you, Tom?
Certainly not. Again, momentum, we talk about it, it's probably an overused word, but the reason it is overused because it is a significant, influence, particularly in T20 cricket. Have you found that over the years that T20 cricket, it does, if you're carrying it, that momentum, you seem to, win games that you don't expect to win. You find a way of winning them. And on the opposite end of the scale, if you don't have that momentum, you forget how to win.
Yeah, that's exactly what we saw with someone like Rajasthan. They couldn't win. It was like they were all in winning positions by the 17th, 18th over, and then fell through in those last 2 overs, and that sort of became a norm for them. So that's the way it is. It's quite a challenge, and now Gujarat will be hoping, like Dustin mentioned, that tomorrow Punjab will beat Mumbai, and that's how they can possibly get there with RCB losing as well.
Yes, it's the other game that now becomes all important, because whoever wins Punjab versus Mumbai will overtake GT. Yeah. MI will do it on net run rate, but they now need RCB to not win against Lucknow Super Giants.
Yeah, and I'm wondering if this also will now put, will make Shubman Gill think about the toss, because twice, I know today he didn't have the option because CSK chose to bat, but he's generally chosen to bowl first. But 2 games in a row, you've conceded big scores, 220 plus scores. Will he now be thinking, man, if I have to play an eliminator, I'd rather bat first, and can that cause more confusion in the team?
No, not at all. I think that'd be a smart move, because that is one component of their game that is pretty assured. Okay, today aside, but they have got good volume of runs. They've got batters in form, but they don't have the same depth of bowlers in form. So that is a concern. And also going into finals, as they say, the cliche of runs on the board. So again, that additional pressure of posting a total, whatever that total may be, depending on conditions, is an added pressure.
The importance of not panicking, because yes, 2 games have gone out of script and you may lose that top 2 advantage, but to just assessing that there were a lot of things that were right and not panicking becomes an equally important component of GT in these few days before whenever they play the playoff?
Absolutely, for all the teams. At this time, it's not the time to press that panic button. It's the time to reflect on what are we really doing well and focusing on those areas and highlighting them and celebrating those areas, and just quietly going about trying to patch up a couple of gaps without it being sort of seen in a public domain, whether it be through the press or whether it be in the dressing room in front of the whole squad, sort of, we must be improving here, and these are the gaps we're missing out on. Just quietly going around on a one-to-one basis and reassuring players, but also just reminding them, of a couple of areas that just might need a little bit of sharpening.
Yeah, bring up that point with you, because that famed season of 2016, which keeps coming up, which still remains the only instance of a team outside the top 2 winning the title, Sunrisers did lose their last 2 league stage games, which meant they played the eliminator. Just keeping the dressing room together was an important component there.
Absolutely it is. And what players need to have that sort of free mind and not sort of worrying about the consequences of what's happened in the past or what may happen if we fall down that same track as what we did in our last 2 games. So again, it's preserving confidence, preserving the culture, that you've built within that playing group. So you're celebrating that and you're trying to keep everyone upbeat and positive, because at the end of the day, there's a lot of tired bodies, there's a lot of tired, mental fatigue there as well. So you need to be, mindful of all those things to make sure that everyone's feeling really positive about what's ahead of them.
Ashish Nehra's calmness, which is so well celebrated. becomes paramount now.
Yeah, it does. I think what was important is also look at all the good things that they've done to be here, because qualifying in the IPL is not that simple. With 10 teams, all of them equally good. Yes, the points table, it says that Chennai is number 10, and then you have Rajasthan at 9, and the rest of them. But generally, if you look at it on paper, all of those teams are really, really good. It's just that one match here, there, things could have been different. So you need to celebrate that and then look at saying whether it is qualifiers or eliminators, whatever it is, one game at a time, focus on that, and then look at how well the team sort of did in those important moments, and try and win those key moments.
All right, Dustin, tactically, you brought up the batting point. Bowling is where they'll have some questions to ask themselves.
Yeah, that will be the question of, Arshad has gone for runs today, but as I said, I think if you play him, you have to bowl him in the power play. Or maybe there's the option, again, it'll all depend on the pitch, of maybe bringing Washington in, and maybe, Tom's idea then of trying a few overs of spin in the power play, maybe something they look at. But, Siraj, they just need him to somehow find a way to get wickets early. I don't know if there's anything they can tweak that much, apart from maybe trying spin early.
Well, the thing, I look at Siraj, and I worked with him in the very early years at Sunrisers, and he was very green then. He's a finished product now. But when I look at him, when he sort of falls down with his performances, because he tries too hard, which is, it's not a bad flaw to have. At least, you've got someone that's got his heart on his sleeve, and he'll do anything. He'll run through brick walls for you. But you nearly need to just pull him back a little bit and just keep him at a level sort of playing field where he just feels more relaxed, not trying too hard. Because when he does that, he then loses, his greatest asset, and that's his control of a good length and line, and be able to take advantage of that new ball.
Yeah, whenever I think of Siraj, I think of that moment when he was on a hat-trick in the Asia Cup, and the field was all in, and then the ball went to long on, and Siraj, the bowler, ran to long on to try and pull the boundary back in. And the thing is, he so exhausted himself with that fielding effort. His next ball, he bowled at about 125 and beat the batter for lack of pace, and got 3 wickets in 4 balls.
I think he finished with 4 wickets in that over.
Yeah, that's Siraj for you.
And I guess that is what the larger point you make, that he's a bowler who blows hot and cold.
Yeah, and I don't think that's down to skill. I think that's just down to his emotion. And it's just controlling that emotion, particularly when you're getting into finals as well. Yeah. And that's when you really need to be calm and cool under pressure.
Yeah, he can blow hot and cold. GT are now hoping they get the fiery side of Siraj now that it is crunch time in the playoffs. But the batting remains an important part of the conversation. The last game, Anil, was the first time they lost 3 in the first 10. Today they lost 3 in the first 6. So another first that they perhaps didn't want. When you look at that middle order, what are the concerns going into the playoffs?
Yeah, it's a concern. I know we spoke about Shah Rukh Khan getting runs in the last game, and that sort of gave him a bit of confidence. But you wouldn't want him to come in like how he came in today, in the 8th over, 9th over, or 7th over, whatever it was. You don't want that. And if the opposition can get to do that, then I think they'll be on top. So that's the biggest challenge for them. And that's where probably looking at, it's going to be in Mullanpur. I don't know how the surface is going to be. Will the surface be like the KKR and Punjab Kings match? Who knows? Then Washington Sundar probably could be there, because in case they lose early wickets, he's someone who can sort of hold that 5 or 6 overs in the middle.
Yeah, way in there, Tom, because while these batters have thrived, coming in late and doing a job, striking high, this role becomes an important one for GT to cover.
Yeah, and it's not just Shah Rukh. Shah Rukh's listed at 5. It's, to me, Shafane Rutherford, who's had a brilliant 12 months, particularly in ODI cricket for the West Indies. I think he was in the ODI Team of the Year, wasn't he? So he's got the form, but I think 4 is not his position. I think he's more a 5 or a 6. You want Shafane Rutherford coming in around about the 10th to 12th over, ideally. And I think 4, generally that batter is coming in between 4 and 7 overs, depending.
But not for GT this season.
No,
but in general.
But in general, normally, and that's where it's sort of covered, that gap in their middle order, and there's a clear gap in their middle order, and that's that number 4 position needs to be certainly considered, because to me, Shahrukh can't bat 4, and I don't think Shafane's the right person either.
So Kusal Mendes, who is the replacement that gets unlocked now that Josh Butler is leaving, big shoes to fill.
Yeah, massive shoes to fill. Butler's had another great season, and it's still puzzling to think that he's left Rajasthan when you think about it. But that's for another time, that conversation. But yeah, that's big shoes to fill on top of the point around the number 4 spot. So they've got 2 potential issues if they lose a early wicket or a couple of early wickets. And you can relate to this, given you've been in plenty of dugouts, and in that when your side loses that little bit of confidence as well, and you do lose a couple of wickets, suddenly you could hear a pin drop in the dugout, and that sort of confidence has been drained out of your dugout, and that's starting to look like it's happening with GT and a few other teams for that matter, that suddenly it's panic stations. Oh gosh, we're not used to this. We're normally no wicket for 60 after 6. So now we're 2 for 60. Oh, who's going to step up? And it's just a different feel completely.
And that's one of the reasons, probably, hopefully for GT, they'll be hoping that they'll be playing the qualifiers rather than the eliminator, because then the pressure on the opening batters is far, far greater. If you know that it's the eliminator, and you know that the challenges that you have with Rutherford at 4, or bringing him in the 6th over or 5th over, Shah Rukh Khan walking in the 7th or 8th over, Kusal Mendes playing his first game, you don't have Josh Butler. So those kind of pressure is totally different.
Yeah, there's a kind of cascade effect as well with Butler and Rabada going. The thing is that even if you thought of maybe Washington instead of an Arshad Khan, so that he can be that floater who in certain situations can go at number 4, now you're thinking, okay, Coetzee my third seamer, who's not had a great game today, has only had 3 games in the IPL. Can I rely on Coetzee, the third seamer, or do I need Arshad? That's what they'll need to figure out if they want to somehow get Washington there, just as a sort of insurance as a batter.
Yeah, no, I think it's a good point. I think, and they tried that in the middle of the season, didn't they? Washington played a few games up the order. I think that's possibly the solution they could go with, because as I said previously, I think they could start with spin and sort of fill the gap there with the losing a pacer for Washington to come in to strengthen your batting, and he's also certainly no mug with the ball either. He could bowl in the power play if the matchup's there as well.
The one factor that does come in, and they're certainly hoping for this, is that Kusal Mendes, I think 123 of his 167 T20 innings have come as opener. So this is a batter who's generally used to playing that sort of situation.
Oh yes, he's probably on a like-to-like. I mean, obviously the
there is no
quality
like for Josh Butler.
Quality is very different. But then at number 3, he will be hoping that he doesn't have to walk in the first or second over. Ideally, you would want the 2 big guns who have done exceptionally well for GT to continue that form in the playoffs, because you would want that partnership. Because like Tom mentioned, 2 best batters out there, one of them gets out early, the pressure in the dugout is very different. And for the other batters who are padded up, looking to come, walk in next, it's very different than when the 2 batters settle in, go past the power play, and then you're 60 for no loss, or even 50 for no loss. That's a different mindset sitting in the dugout.
And speaking of pressure, it's not only with those 2, it's just think of the pressure that Mendes is under. This is his first real taste of IPL. Yeah. He is a fine player. There's no question of that. He's done great work with Sri Lanka over the years. But to step into those big shoes, but also with the fact that this is my real opportunity to prove that I belong here, all those additional things that are outside of what's really important. For him, what's really important is the first ball you face, and then after that, the next ball you face. Forget about all the other white noise out there that may be potential distractions.
All right, we will leave it there. Lots of questions for Gujarat Titans to ponder. Lots of questions coming in on our feed as well, largely around Gujarat Titans. I hope they've been answered. A lot of the bowling questions that are coming up were answered when we were live during halftime. So that is GT. They go into the playoffs having lost back-to-back games for the first time. Congratulations to CSK, who do finish the season on a high after it started in the dispirited fashion that it did. But now we turn our attention to the second game this evening. Kolkata Knight Riders versus Sunrisers Hyderabad in Delhi. Sunrisers have won the toss at the Arun Jaitley Stadium. They will bat first, and let's take a look at lineups. Sunrisers Hyderabad first. They are batting first. They go in unchanged. The side that won the last game, a side that has been quite buoyant. They've won a lot of their last few games. I think it's 4 of the last 5. Tom started the season dreaming of 300. Delhi's been high scoring.
Yeah, I think that's been the one of the challenges for this side is that, you know, they've been dreaming too high, and they've fallen over themselves trying to, you know, reach as far as 300. Yeah, look, no surprise to see no changes there. You know, they're on a bit of a roll at the moment at the wrong time of the season, but, you know, for them, they're playing some good cricket and they're a major threat as they've proven over the last few weeks.
Harsh Dubey on the bench, you'd imagine, is the likeliest candidate.
Yeah, he was brought in the last game. I guess same thing as last game. Kind of look at the pitch and then decide. I don't know. Simarjeet is there. He's another option. Yeah. So there's Harsh Dubey, Zishan, and then Simarjeet would be the 3 options. Shami is also named on the bench.
Yeah, so, just wonder whether they might have another look at him, or they've already
could be
put a line through him.
Hold that thought. Let's just take our viewers through how Kolkata Knight Riders are lining up. The now displaced defending champions. Their last game, they bring Quinton de Kock in place of Rahmanullah Gurbaz. De Kock had obviously started the season as KKR's opener of choice before they moved to Gurbaz. And there is also an outing for Andrik Nokia, the other 2 overseas in Sunil Narayan and Andre Russell. Anil?
A bit too late to bring in Andrik Nokia and Quinton de Kock. And I would expect it. I certainly expected them to come back in. Yes, Quinton didn't have the greatest of seasons. He had a nice 90 against Rajasthan, won them the game. Yeah. But post that, he didn't have we expect a lot more from Quinton. But ideally, I thought KKR missed a trick in bringing him back. And of course, Andrik Nokia, who knows the Arun Jaitley Stadium. He's played for Delhi before. So I guess, you know.
Fasten your seatbelt. He knows he's in for a tough night.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, you wouldn't have happy memories from last season.
No. I mean, Delhi is a tough pitch for if you bowl at that speed. Even Mitch Stark found out.
Yeah,
it's not easy when you run in and bowl that quick.
Since Anil brings up the Quinton de Kock point, 97 in what was, I think, the 3rd game of the season in Guwahati. 46 runs in 6 innings apart from that. Where do you stand on the call they took at that point to not play him?
Well, I would have made that call before this game and before this opportunity, purely because I think one of the challenges that Quinton de Kock's got, regardless of his decorated career, is that when he retired, he then didn't get the cricket or the volume of cricket he needs to maintain the level that he's had previously. And that became very, very evident once he retired from international cricket. His form dipped. And even just the way he presented at the crease, the way that, you know, he found it difficult to get his innings going, where if you take yourself back to the early days of Quinton de Kock, he was like unstoppable, you know, to begin with. He was like, how do we pin this guy down? He's, you know, hit me through the leg side and then he's cutting me through the backward point. Now it's a real struggle. I just think that's because he's not playing enough cricket and he's not getting the volume that he needs going into big tournaments like the IPL.
Yeah. Is he high up on the probable candidates to be released by KKR?
I mean, I think he will be. But there's a lot of other players. I think one big one is the captain, Rahane. You know, do they decide to keep him on next season? I think that's going to be a big question. And if they do, then where does he bat? I think Rahane this season, I know that his overall numbers look okay, but the thing is the skew between power play strike rate and outside power play is just, it's immense. It's like 180 plus in the power play and then 110 in the middle overs. And that's the last 2 seasons now. Against spin, in the last 2 seasons, he's striking at 110 or just below that. So, you know, I know he's somebody who can still go hard in the power play, but I don't know whether you can, you know, at this stage, because even if they say shift him to the opening spot, there will be situations where you want him to bat beyond the power play and take down spin. And if he can't do that, is he a player that you can have in your 11 and as your captain?
I think the challenge for KKR is to find the captain before you even think of releasing Ajinkya, because you know, he was bought in the auction and everyone thought that it could be a Venki Iyer because they sort of paid that kind of amount to buy him from the, at the auction, but then decided to go with Ajinkya. Then once you've done that, until and unless you sort of say, okay, now who's the captain? I mean, Venki Iyer hasn't had a great season. So they need to first figure out that before they even look to release or take a call on Ajinkya.
Yeah, Venki Iyer was the listed vice captain for the season, but the biggest problem remains the same, that you can probably identify 5 or 6 batters maybe who are best suited to batting at number 3, and you'd require to perhaps clear some of those out.
That is the problem. There's no question of that. You know, they're all fine players, but you know they're all vanilla. You know, you need a few different flavours in there, and that's the challenge they need to do when they're looking and reviewing their retentions. To, you know, how can we create that balance of, you know, those players like Raghavanshi and an impact player like a Rinku Singh or Andre Russell or whoever it may be. And the other thing they need to consider, you know, Sunil Narine has been an absolute legend in the IPL, but he's so hot and cold at the top of the order. He had a breakout, you know, season last year, and one of the main reasons, you know, that they ended up lifting the trophy. But whenever the ball moves or the surface is slightly in favour of bowling, he has historically always had trouble. So they're going to continue to, you know, bang on the same drum there, knowing that, you know, the wicket, unless they're flat wickets, it's fine. But if the wickets are going to be a bit like this year, where there's a slightly more even balance between bat and ball, are you going to continue to go down that path? Because it hasn't worked this year.
Lots to ponder for KKR then as far as their batting combinations, the batting personnel go. Let's see how it plays out for them a year from now. But Sunrisers are batting first, and that is where our focus lies. It's time for Nexa Presents Powerplay Conversations. It's the power play that defined the final week of last season, with KKR's bowlers continuously doing the job over Sunrisers' openers. Travis Head is happy Mitchell Starc isn't there, but Travis Head still has Vaibhav Arora to contend with, who did get him in the final, who has got him after that as well.
Yes, but this is the final game. I think he'll just look to go after from ball 1. I think Vaibhav has done well for them, especially with the new ball. And, you know, I feel probably, you know, I got what? You want predictions now, or you want the predictions now, or what do you want?
You can hold on it.
I can go with it? Okay, I said 200 and for CSK, and then they got 230.
Yes.
I might as well go with 230.
All right. Wow.
Two 230s today.
Okay. Just going back on Vaibhav Arora, he's quietly, it's obviously been a season where so many of these issues have been highlighted for KKR. 16 wickets, leaky, but you thought they wanted to continue having someone in the power play to take wickets in the absence of Starc. He's done his job reasonably well.
Yeah, he has. He hasn't had the support, but and that's been one of their issues, is that, you know, normally they've taken wickets early, and Narayan and Chakravarti have dined in those middle overs with wickets, you know, already been impacted in the first 6 overs or so. But yeah, look, I just looking at that stat and knowing Travis Head, I don't think he'd even know that he's got out twice, because he doesn't compute that way, doesn't think that way. He's a very much see ball, hit ball. He wouldn't know the numbers around anything. Okay,
you tell us the numbers. Anil has kicked us off with 230.
I want to go for 242.
Wow. 4-2. Dustin, I'll inform you, forecaster says 204.
Okay, I just think because there's Narayan and Chakravarti to contend with, I'll say 196.
Low bowling.
Yeah, I mean, although it's a flat pitch. No, 212.
Oh, no. Be brave. I've been stupid by going way high.
Okay, I'll go back. 196, let's.
196, which gives us a range of nearly 50. All right. Thank you so much, Dustin, Anil, Tom. Pleasure having your company. We will pick up the conversation at halftime. KKR Sunrisers rematch of the 2024 final. Let's see how close Sunrisers get to the figures predicted by these fine gentlemen. Be sure to join us at halftime then on Nexa Presents ESPN Cricket Info Timeout.
Ready for it.
Thrilled for it.
Presenting Franks with Turbo Booster Jet Engine.
Nexa.